Enough of this crap. This is not Donald Trump's America. This is America. What's happening right now is the very essence of that which America is. This whole explosion right now of the alt-right spreading racist shit and now murdering people is a symptom of something America has always been. It has always been this way. You know what? We don't even have to go back to slavery. We don't have to go back to Jim Crow. We don't have to go back to native genocide. We don't even have to go back that far at all. You see this alt-right shit that's now gotten an American killed, and all this over the statues? This is the same thing that's used to justify imperialism. This was the same thing that was used to justify the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, etc. It's those people, those lesser people. It's the same thing. The only difference is that when it's imperialism, it's liberals doing it as well. I mean, this is the real face of America. It's just that this time an American died because of it. Because this time it wasn't somebody outside the country who did it. It was someone inside the country who did it. And they were white. So now there's nothing left they can possibly blame it on. They can't even blame this on mental illness. They can't just say, oh, well, it's like this brown guy, he doesn't represent everybody who's brown. This was straight up white, racist terrorism. And nothing is going to change that. They can't even pretend this is mental illness this time. And look at the outrage. The unmitigated outrage at the loss of this woman's life. And it is an outrage. It's absolutely disgusting. This is one drop in a bucket of tens of millions of people who have died as a result of the United States. This same mentality the alt-right has is the same one that is shared by Americans almost universally across the board. Every time there was some justification for going to war. And just like every single time it happens, there it is. Everybody just lining up, ready to just support it mindlessly. That's the same thing with the war in the DPRK right now. Well, the majority of Americans are lining right up with hostilities against the country. Oh, but they're a little bit careful this time. You see, the DPRK has nukes now. So usually when they jump on the kill whatever third world country the bourgeois government tells them to bandwagon, they usually jump on it right away, all happy and like, yeah, I was just spouting anti-war statements like 5 minutes ago, but we've got a new reason for war, so they're jumping all over it. Oh, well, the DPRK could actually defend itself this time. This time, there's nukes involved and Americans could be looking at severe casualties on their side. So now all of a sudden they're thinking, well, maybe we should think twice about this whole invasion thing. Because I guarantee you, if the DPRK did not have intercontinental ballistic missiles, they did not have nuclear weapons, every goddamn fucking liberal and first worldist would be cheering on the United States going to war against the DPRK. And it's only the fact that the DPRK could possibly strike back is the only reason anyone is having any second thoughts about it. Now, there's the hardcore element of us that are going to oppose imperialism whenever it rears its ugly head. Well, I'm talking about the average person, even the average Marxist who still supports going to war against the DPRK. I mean, ANCOM's just being the worst of it. But it's interesting when you look at all these things tied together and you see how they're all a part of the one big whole of racist shit that America is. It's mind-blowing when your mind makes all the little connections. And as an outsider, I really wonder, where in the fuck do you get this American exceptionalism idea from? Like, on what grounds is America better than anybody else in anything other than mass murder? it's unfathomable to me that where you would get any kind of moral high ground, any kind of high ground on any subject whatsoever, and it's just right there in front of everyone's face, and nobody wants to see it, and the American public doesn't want to see it. Look at this fucking outrage over this one woman being killed. How many people have died of U.S. bombs in Syria? Just Syria. Or U.S. support for the Saudi war in Yemen. Yeah, and it kind of is a support if you're selling them weapons to do it. And diplomatically covering them while they're doing it. Not a fucking word. But one first worlder, one American, and it's like almost national mourning. And while what happened to her was certainly a disgrace, it's small and insignificant compared to what the United States does. And I said, I'm going to go back into the whole thing about where you can't blame it on anything else. You can't blame it on mental illness. You can't blame it on foreigners and all that other stuff. Americans have to accept that this was their own that did it. But just like no fucks are given about the people that they kill. And it just kind of really sickens me to my core. And you've got all these celebrities coming out now. Oh, we're against the violence. We're against the Nazi violence. We're against the violence against people oppressing. While their fucking country lines up to do it, like, what is it, every 8 to 6 years? As the U.S. is doing it right now in other countries. Every liberal shithead anti-war activist piece of shit is lining up to support these bombs. Look at goddamn Stephen Colbert. Just for an example. During the Colbert Report, unlimited hate and rightful hate and rightful criticism thrown at the Bush administration for the Iraq War. All of it. Called it a crime. Called it, a great humanitarian disaster. It was a lie. Of course, it was the American people that were lied to because they're the real victims in the Iraq War, of course. So what's he do? He goes overseas to do a show for the troops in Iraq. The war that he just said was not only illegal, but it was immoral, it was wrong, and they were lied to about it. He gets on there, and he's got a high-ranking general as one of his guests. Kisses his fucking ass through the whole interview. Like, where were you, Colbert? I thought you were just talking all this shit about how the war was wrong. Turns around, kisses their ass. He says all this stuff about how the Bush administration and the top officials in it manipulated everything and lied to it. Just recently on The Late Show, he has Donald Rumsfeld on it. Softball fucking questions, treated him like he was his best friend. So where's your moral outrage then? Or was it only when it's fashionable? Right? And it's this monumental, two-faced nature of America. How they continually claim about caring about the poor, caring about what's going on in the world, but then fucking causes most of it. And anything they don't directly cause, they find a way to make worse. It just blows my mind. And leftists are just as bad for it. They do the same thing. They come out and they denounce imperialism bad. But as soon as there's another fucking reason to go to war, right there they are. I'll give you a prime example. The fucking New York Maoists. You remember them when they still existed? They put out this stupid blog post by Carlos. Neither Assad nor the rebels. In other words, you've got a side, imperialism or anti-imperialism. Oh, we're not taking a side. Well, yeah, by proxy, you are taking the side of imperialism. And this is from a supposed Maoist organization. They couldn't even understand the basic principle of primary and secondary contradiction, one of the most basic things Mao formulated. You unite together against imperialism, and then you have it out afterwards. Mao allied with the Nationalist Party to get rid of the Japanese, and then overthrew the nationalists. But no, it's neither side. It's neither side and theirs, because it would be wrong to support Assad because he's homophobic and transphobic. And well, then there was the time I asked him why he supports Hamas. Hamas is pretty homophobic and pretty transphobic. There's a lot of radical Islamic elements to it. I'm not saying I don't support Hamas, I do, but I can certainly accept that they're not perfect. So it says, well, then how do you support them, knowing that they're this way, and those same reasons you won't support Assad equally apply to Hamas? Well, he didn't really have an answer other than to say, I never consented to you commenting on my post. But that's a prime example of the fucking left in the United States. And don't get me wrong, Canada too, we are fucking assholes in that same way. Our fucking Maoists up in fucking Montreal, just as bad. Absolutely horrendous. Couldn't define proletariat if you pin them to the floor and force them. And it's just all of it. They're showing so much outrage towards this one first world person that died. And there's literally not even just acts of war, but through tens of millions through economics alone that are being killed, and like you barely hear a thing. And this is a thing that reminds us, first, I always love it when first worldists quote Che Guevara. If you can show outrage at the loss of one person anywhere in the world, and you're a comrade of mine, well, they kind of fucking don't. They kind of only show it when it's theirs, and they don't really care, other than a few superfluous statements when it's someone overseas. So I think that just so perfectly sums up first worldism and sums up why first world people are not the allies of third world people, even if they pretend to be in the same class. And that was, that's something that I had to get off my chest at this moment. Thank you for watching. It's just something that sparked me up, and I had to say something, and I had to get it out. So thank you for watching.